This is Russ. Yeah, I'm back in the car again. Yeah, I just came out of the grocery store. Well, first I went to Costco. Coke products. Yeah, I went to the Mount Prospect Costco. They have shifted to Coke products. Let me put a photo up here. The guys have been putting the machine in today. So I was one of the first guys to get a Coke out of that machine at Mount Prospect. So it took them a while to switch over. They were still selling Pepsi products for 2 weeks longer than the Lake Zurich Costco. Yeah, they must have ran out of their Pepsi, and now they finally switched over to Coke. So they put the machine up there. So afterwards, I went to the grocery store. Show you what I bought. Some bananas. Okay, 69 cents a pound. Typical price. I bought some cherries, 99 cents a pound, typical sale price, and a freebie Friday deal of this. This is General Mills Strawberry Cheerios Protein. Never heard of it, but hey, the key word was not cereal. The key word was freebie. If there's a freebie, Russ is getting it. I told you guys, Russ is cheap. All right, let's pull out of here. Make sure we don't run anybody over. Yep, the key word was freebie. Yeah, this particular grocery store, it's called Tony's. It's in Prospect Heights. Yeah, all this stuff is in Illinois, so in case you guys don't know, I'm out in Illinois. So they do a free thing on Fridays, and so typically on Fridays, if I'm gonna go to Costco, I figure I might as well go past the grocery store, get my freebie Friday. That's why I go to the Mount Prospect Costco, because this grocery store is in Prospect Heights, which is right next to Mount Prospect, right? Yeah, so usually when they give you freebie Friday stuff, it's usually things like, I don't know, barbecue sauce, yogurt, some type of drinks you've never heard of before. Products you usually haven't heard of before, but excuse me. General Mills Cheerios. Yeah, I didn't know who made Cheerios. It turned out it's General Mills. I haven't had cereal in a long time. I really can't eat it. Well, I could eat it. I mean, just not lots of it. I will say this, since the whole diabetes scare happened a year and a half ago, I've been very careful of what I eat in terms of sugars and carbs, although I have been more lax about it this past year, half a year, as I mentioned. That's why my A1Cs went to 6.1. It had dropped as low as 5.7 from a 13.2 level. So it has gone up a bit, but it's not dangerously high. But it would be considered like borderline, right? So anyway, but still, 6.1 is not so bad. All right, so there's a person here on the corner soliciting for funds. Do you guys get that? What some may call panhandlers. Yeah. They seem to always use this corner or some type of corner at an intersection. And then, they'll have signs out, of whatever, they're saying that they are, whether they're homeless or I have a family I need to support, blah, 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 whatever. Sometimes I wonder about that because, first off, if you have a family support, why is there another person on the other corner also doing the same thing? So I'm thinking, what is that? Your whole family is out here asking for it? I don't know. So, and then I talked to my friend, Stacy, as you know. We were talking about that one day, and I says, do you give money to these people on the corners? He goes, no. He says, if they don't look the part, I don't give it to them. I tend to do the same thing. Yeah. If you're dressed better than me and you're soliciting for money, I don't think you're going to get the money from me. If you look like you're the part, if you look like the part, then maybe I kind of buy your story. If you don't look like the part, I kind of wonder. He was telling me, he says, these guys got some expensive Nike shoes on. Guy's got his cell phone. He's talking on the phone. He goes, wait a minute. If they have all that, are they really homeless? Are they really whatever? There's other people you can tell, you know. Now, let me give you a story. There's always a story. I used to live in San Diego, as you know. I worked for the San Diego District Attorney's Office, which meant that I had to go downtown to the county courthouse because that's where I worked, right? In the courthouse. Yeah, the DA's office. So I don't know why it is, but it seems like every downtown area, at least here in Chicago too, there's always people who are homeless hanging around. Yeah, they are. Now some of these guys, you know they're homeless. I mean, you can tell. They don't look too good. Yeah, their clothes are all beat up. They kind of smell. They're kind of dirty. They're sleeping on cardboard boxes. Those guys I might give a little bit of money to, yeah, because I kind of look at it and go, yeah, this guy's definitely on the streets. He is not, he's not a fake, right? But I'll tell you, out in California, you know, they had grocery stores, you know, Ralph's. If you're in California, you might know Ralph's, Vons, right? There'll be people outside of grocery stores soliciting for money, and these guys are dressed up. I don't know. They have like a, you know how the Catholics have a collar thing, right? They have the little white collar shirt. They'll have those things on, and they'll say they're collecting for their mission or whatever it is that they're supposedly collecting for. Those guys are fake. Yeah, those guys aren't real. Yeah, everyone knows that, but yet they're in front of the grocery store soliciting for money. I'm just surprised that, you know, the grocery stores allow them to do that. Now, this was years ago. I don't know if they're still out there doing this. But when I lived out there in the, what would it be? The late 80s, early 90s, that's what those guys were out there doing. And people would tell us too, they says, you know, don't give it to those guys because those guys aren't real. And even when you're walking to your car, there'll be people who will walk up to you and say, hey, can you help give me some money, you know, for the bus or to whatever, I don't have any money, or my car broke down, I need some money for gas. I don't trust those guys either. Yep, and then, you know, you hear stories, and then you find out they've hit other people too, but they don't have issues. The worst that I find is the people who solicit for money, and then when they're done, they get into their Mercedes and drive away. I mean, okay, now, let me say this. Our pastor had recently talked about how he had given $20 to somebody who was begging for money. And then his son said too, he says, well, Dad, how do you know that this guy actually needs the money? He says, I don't know. But he says, I felt I should give him some money, okay? So, you know, I don't want to contradict our pastor, but I'm just saying that sometimes you kind of know. If you kind of know, I have a hard time giving it. It's just me, okay? Maybe I'm not as good as our pastor. But sometimes you just know, okay? I mean, some of the stories are always the same story too that you see on these poster boards they hold up. You know, it just doesn't match up. You know, if you can kind of tell, I have a hard time giving them the money. Yeah. I remember one time I was eating a pizza. I'd gotten a pizza. It was like a half-price pizza deal, right? On a Monday, come in at a certain time. Get a pizza, get half price. You know, I was going to one of my photography field trips that I do for my photography students. It was in the downtown area. We were doing a night photography class. So I says, well, you know, I got to get something to eat before I go. So I stopped by the pizza place and bought a half price pizza, you know, small half price pizza. So I'm eating it as I'm driving towards the downtown area. And I see this guy. He was obviously homeless. I didn't have money to give him. But I rolled down the window and says, hey, are you hungry? And the guy says, yes. So I gave him the other half of the pizza. Yeah. And as I'm driving away, I can see him eating the pizza. Yeah. So, you know, there are people who legitimately need it. You can tell, you know. You can tell. I was hungry too. I wanted to eat the whole pizza. But I gave him half the pizza. I'm sure he enjoyed it. We've had people at another church that I used to go to when I was younger, people who will stop by the church asking for money, right? And typically what that church did is we didn't give them the money, but we would actually go with them and buy them some groceries. Yeah. So, I mean, in that sense, I know that it would be legitimately given to them to be used for that function, right? Versus if you give them money, how do I know? How do they know they're just not going to take that money and buy some liquor with it or something, right? That I wouldn't feel too good about, or buy some drugs with it. I would not feel good about that. So, but the thing is, you have to kind of trust that people, who are asking for it, legitimately need it for something of good use and need, versus something that they're just going to squander it on drugs or something. This is the difference between maybe someone who has a little bit more compassion than me, like our pastor, who's willing to take the word of the person and give it to him. But I don't know. I have a hard time with doing that. I would usually only give out some monies or something like a pizza to someone who I can kind of tell actually need it. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, do you look the part? If they look the part, then I would have more compassion, I guess, in that sense. It's not good, but that's me. What can I say? I'm not perfect either. But Russ is always right. I told you guys that. Let me know in the comments, what do you do? Do you pass these people up? Do you give out funds? If you give it, how do you make the decision to give it? If you don't give it, do you just out of norm, I don't give to anybody asking, or, unless they look the part, you will give it? Let me know. I think this is an interesting comment for you to put down. Of course, you might not want to tell us. You might think, I'm not telling them, makes me look bad. But, like I said, I'm just telling you the truth, what my thinking pattern is when someone's asking for funds. Like I said, I know my pastor would be one who might normally just give it. More trusting, I guess, in that sense. But he's not a fool. I'm sure he would. If you can see it's definitely a fake, then why would you do that? But if you don't know, he takes the word that the guy is actually being honest about it. I don't know. Let me know. Anyways, you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. We have passed the 700 mark. This guy's going really slow. It's holding everybody up. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 300 more to hit 1,000. So I'll talk to you guys next time.